Alright, so in 1996, there was this great game that came out on the Sega Saturn. Now, granted, a lot of games were great on the Sega Saturn, but this one actually was held up pretty high. Now, see, basically, a game called Guardian Heroes was released, and Guardian Heroes was really cool because, basically, you were one of 4 different characters, or 5, depending if you beat the game or not, because there was one extra character that was hidden. But anyway, you have 5 characters, actually 6, but we'll get into that later. Basically, so you had multiple characters that you can choose from, right? Now, storyline is this. You went ahead and got this sword. And apparently it's a special sword because all these armies want to go after it. Now, granted, the armies are nothing more than mere color sprite changes, but you get the idea. You've got like 6 or 7 armies trying to come after you with the sword. And the first army is your home army who invades your hideout trying to go after the sword. So you're running, and you end up in a forest. Now, you're head off by the general of the army who wants to go ahead and get this for his own, get the sword for himself as well. But the situation is this. What they don't realize is that the sword all of a sudden takes a life of its own and resurrects an undead golden warrior from the dead. So now it's you, a companion, and another undead computer-controlled character trying to go ahead and basically figure out what's going on with the sword, what are the secrets behind the sword, between the undead guy, and how to go ahead and beat the game. Now, one of the coolest things about the game is that the simple fact that you have multiple story arcs that you can go through. You can literally play the game back to back to back to back to back to back, and it will literally be a different game every time. Now, granted that it is limited, as it's like multiple storylines, true, but at some point you're going to reach the limit. After all, it is a 1996 game, so you will reach your limit. But I got to tell you that it is a really fun game to play. Now, they have basically the original mode, which basically gives you the original sprites and how they looked, as well as a remix mode, which gives you more different moves, more different abilities, as well as the better sprites. You know, there's basically a graphical remix and original mode, and a gameplay original and remix mode. Now, one of the things I actually like about the game, speaking of gameplay, is the simple fact that unlike the other fighting games, like, you know, the beat-em-ups, basically where you had to press, like, you know, 2 buttons or maybe a 3rd button and you just did your special. It didn't work like that. Because of the simple fact that your character actually had so many different types of special moves that you actually had to do it via Street Fighter or via Mortal Kombat. Basically, down, down, B was, for example, Nicole, I believe her name is, Nicole's barrier move. Now, with that being said, another thing about the game that I like the most too is that you had these moves, but at the same time, you can actually go ahead and lock the moves up into different moves. For example, let me give you some little bit of tips for Randy and Nicole. I mentioned Nicole's barrier, but the thing is that you can actually use that barrier to your advantage. Now, one of the cool things about the game, and I'm going to get into that in a minute, is that the simple fact that your character can level up their abilities. So your barrier, which only covers you in the beginning of the game, actually can cover almost the entire screen with time you level it up. So what you can do is this. You can take that barrier and you can literally cast a barrier and smash them between your barrier and the edge of the screen, causing humongous major damage. So granted, yeah, it's a little bit of a but you know what? It gets the job done. It's a fantastic move. Another move is this. When you're Nicole is a healer type, okay? She's a defensive healer type. Now, granted that with that being said, it means that she has a healing ability, but the thing is that her healing ability is not limited to just the playable characters, but they're also for anyone who's on the screen, which means that your enemies will get healed as well. So you're going to want to go ahead and make sure that your partner is doing whatever move that they need to do in order to keep the enemies away while you go ahead and heal. Let me give you one fine example. Serena, another character, she's actually the hidden character, the red female knight, excuse me. She has ability to do what I call a cone of cold attack. Basically, she raises her sword in the air and causes a snowstorm around her immediate area, which will go ahead and freeze everyone in their tracks. That's a good move. You can have Nicole stand right next to her and go ahead and cast a healing spell at the same time that the other person's casting the other spell, and because of that, you can basically have both yourselves healed, and nobody else is getting healed but the playable characters. So it's definitely a good way to go ahead and actually you know, take advantage of the different situations, different moves there. Speaking of which, like I said before, everyone has different types of moves. Now, of course, you have Nicole and Randy, who have more offensive magical abilities, well, more magical abilities, should I say. Randy being the mage and Nicole being a healer. But then you also have people like Serena and Hans and Genjiru, I believe his name is, who are more offensive, you know, via punching and swinging and kicking and things of that nature. Another hint I want to give you, since I said I'll give you 2 hints, is with Randy. Now, Randy is a mage, and he has great, fantastic magical moves, but do not sleep on his physical attacks. He has fantastic physical attacks with his staff. Here's one thing you want to know. If you do a move very similar to the Hadouken, down quarter to forward rather, I think with the X button I think it's the X button, I think it is, or square, depending on what you're playing it on, you can actually go ahead and do a move, which is him twirling his staff. Now, the thing about that move is this, is that in this game, you have the ability to parry, which means that if someone's attacking you and you attack with your weapon, you are automatically parrying that particular attack, and both of your attacks get canceled out. You can use that spinning move to your advantage to go ahead and block multiple moves, or, different things like that. So, say someone went to swing at me, I can use that move to parry them, and then bang, they totally get blocked. Same thing with some magical attacks. Someone hits you with a magical attack, you can use a staff to actually block it by spinning it around. Pretty good, right? And there's other things that you can do in the game, too, that are just really fantastic and just majorly fun. But I'm going to let you go ahead and get into that game, get into all that and find out yourself. Now, another thing is that this. With that being said, the game is not 100% as it used to be. I did notice slight tweaks in the game. Let me give you one example. I'm bringing up Randy again. Randy also has his move where it's basically just like the Shoryuken, which is basically, I think it's with the Y button. Same move, forward, down, quarter up, where he goes up in the air, spinning his staff still, and, doing a dragon punch, if you will, similar to a dragon punch anyway. The thing is this, though. In the other game, what I used to do is this. I used to do that particular dragon punch move, but after I did it, I used to, as soon as it stopped, I used to start with another combo, which would, if you hit the X equivalent button or the small attack multiple times, he would do like a, kind of like a kick. So I would knock the enemy into the air, and then I would be literally kicking his ass, literally, as we came down. I can't do that move in this game for some reason. Now, maybe it's because of my old age, who knows? But I know that my reflexes can't be that slow to the point where I can't do a very, pretty easy move. So, nonetheless, I'm really thinking that, the game has been tweaked a little bit to the point where you can't do all the moves and you can't take advantage of all the cheapness that is with the game. Nonetheless, it is still a fantastic game. Now, one thing I want to bring up too is the versus mode. The versus mode is kind of like Smash Brothers on crack, because you got all these moves and all these characters, up to 45 different characters, I believe, who can do all of these major powerful moves, right? In 3 different planes. Mind you that at the time, 3D gaming was just starting to get into that. So it was basically the point where you had 3 planes and you jump between all 3 of them. You go ahead and play the game. You'll understand what I mean. At any rate, so you have basically up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 different characters on the screen. All you guys swinging at each other, dodging attacks, and it gets hectic. Seriously, it does. But it's still a fantastic game. It's definitely worth playing. The only thing that I don't know as of yet, if the co-op mode is indeed 4 players. I am not 100% sure if the co-op mode is 4 players. I do know it's 2. I have 2 controllers, so I was able to find out if it was 2 players. However, I only have 2 controllers. I don't have 4 or whatever. So because of that reason, I can't go ahead and find out. I can't log into another profile and see if I can go ahead and do that. I can only, do that, sadly. So by all means, if someone actually knows if the game is 4 players co-op, storyline, by all means, let me know. I would love to know that. Nonetheless, though, here's a kicker. I told you all this content about how great this game was, and it is great, but here's a kicker. It's only $10. Seriously, this game is not worth $10. It is worth 20, well, maybe not that much, but at least 18. Seriously, there's some retail games out there for the Xbox 360 run about 18, nowhere near as good as this game. Yet they insist on selling this game for $10. Seriously, why would you not go ahead and take advantage of this? It is a great game for a great price. That you'll be playing for hours on end, especially if you're like those beat 'em up / RPGs. That's another thing too. I mentioned that you can build up your character, but you can build them up in an RPG style. Basically, what you do is this: every time you swing on your character, every time you're attacking, you get experience points, and then you can actually go ahead and level up your strength for your attacks, your health, your magic abilities, things of that nature. So it's a action adventure RPG. with multiple branching storylines that also has a multiplayer versus component to it for $10. Seriously, I know games like, what was that game? There are multiple games out there that don't even have those components. Hey, I'm about to get hate for what I'm about to say, but I'm about to say it, and it's just the truth. God of War didn't have some of the features. You know, this was a great game, but God of War didn't even have some of the features that this game has. Hell, Bayonetta didn't have some of the features. You know, I'm just trying to make it fair. You know, but you guys get the idea. Guardian Heroes right now it's on Xbox Live Arcade. I do believe that it will be released on PlayStation Network probably sometime next year. I do know that they said that depending on how it sells, if they're actually going to buy it, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. You guys should too. Let me know what you guys think about Guardian Heroes, whether you played the newer version or played the older version. Put that in the comment section below, and by all means, let me know which version you played. And if you are the ones who has played both versions, let me know which one you think you prefer.